It's a nice turnout. I appreciate that. I want to let you know some information. We have a film crew here. So tonight, or this afternoon, we're going to have Kim speak from over in this area because the light is best for the film crew, okay? If you do not want your face to be in the film, I would like you to come on this side of the room. Otherwise, you're probably fine where you are. I was just telling Kim that it seems like a couple of years ago that many of us met her, which was at our farm-to-table dinner. And I can't believe it's just been a year, or maybe not quite even a year. But anyway, a lot has happened in a year. And we've got a great candidate. And, well, first of all, I think we should applaud her for winning the primary. So what we're going to do, and by the way, my name's Rob Frazier, I'm sorry. What we're going to do is let Kim speak for a few minutes, and then we're going to open it up to questions and go from there. Okay? Okay, Kim, it's all yours.
Thank you, Rob. It is really good to be here and to be back. And I should just really clarify, where is my best place to stand and face? Right there. Right here.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Everybody's this way.
If you feel like you need to see her face, we'll give you a minute to get around here if you feel like you.
Yeah, you can like turn and go. I'm trying to talk. I feel like I'm talking and everybody's behind me. Okay. I am super duper grateful for having all of you here because this is such an exciting time.
Hey guys.
It is such an exciting time because we here in Ellensburg can make a big difference in the trajectory of our district and our country at a time when it really matters. For those of you who haven't met me, as I look around the room, I have met most of you, but I'm Kim Schrier, and I'm a pediatrician and a wife and a mom, and I have been living and working in the Issaquah area for the past 17 years, taking care of thousands of children and their families and learning an awful lot about the families in this district. And frankly, I think that's pretty representative of families everywhere in this district. I never planned to run for office. I figured I would practice and then retire and teach. But the 2016 election was a huge wake-up call. And I really believe that the policies of this administration are a direct threat to children and families everywhere. In fact, the morning after the election, my son Sam came downstairs. We had scooted him off to bed early the night before because we saw the situation turning and didn't really want to get him caught up in that night. But he came downstairs the morning after and he saw my face and he saw David's face and he took this big breath and said, "Does this mean we have to move to another country?" Yes. Yes. We stay, we roll up our sleeves, we get to work. But you can see that right away, politics became incredibly personal because I had to explain to an 8-year-old how a man who bullies people and who grabs women's bodies and then threatens to sue them when they come forward became our president. And it was personal as a woman concerned about reproductive rights and seeing the direction that our country was headed. It was personal to me as a person with a background in science because science should not be a political issue. It is too important for science to become political because we have a climate that is changing that we need to address promptly. And to continue to have this debate where half of Congress thinks science matters and the other half of Congress thinks that it doesn't, well, that's not getting us anywhere. And by the way, I don't think that scientific matters are the only places science matters. Let me see if I can explain that. We need evidence-based decisions, right? Whether it's our immigration policy or our tax policy or the way we teach our kids, evidence matters. This became personal to me just as a human being. Seeing the scapegoating of groups of individuals and blaming our economic woes on them, seeing attacks on immigrants and human rights and civil rights and our free press, and I think we should all be very alarmed when we see that happening in our country. And then finally, the pediatrician with type 1 diabetes, the attacks on the Affordable Care Act hit me very personally because I cannot think of one family in this country that has not been touched in some way by a pre-existing condition. And I don't feel like people in Congress get that. And I understand that if I did not work for a big company, I would be right there with those 26 million people thinking every day that they have insurance because of the Affordable Care Act. Is it perfect? No, but was it a great step in the right direction? Absolutely. So what did I do? I did what a lot of you did. I called my congressman daily. I got a daily alert. I joined my indivisible groups. And when that first Trump care bill came out, the one that would have taken care of 32,000 people in this district, that would have made 300,000 people like me unable to afford care, I went with 3 other doctors and we met with Dave Reichert's office. We explained all of that. Please don't keep this promise. We need the ACA intact. And days later, he voted for that Trump care bill in committee anyway. And I was deeply frustrated because I felt that my congressman just didn't get it. He had lost touch and that we deserve better. And frankly, it came down to a very simple calculation. You know what? The pediatrician who has type 1 diabetes at this moment when we're worried about our health care could totally take on the sheriff. So I decided to run against him. Yes. I get. And a month later, by the way, he announced that he would be retiring. I'm just saying. And I get that the health and the well-being of my patients and all of you is not just about health insurance. It's a big part of it. But it's also really about whether we have clean air to breathe and clean water to drink. It's about whether we have a great public education system that prepares our kids and our grandkids for whatever future they want. And for those who want to go on and pursue education after high school, to make sure it doesn't leave them bankrupt and in a hole that they can really never get out of. It is about whether we have public lands that remain public for all of us to enjoy, and we're seeing those disappearing. They are public. And it is about whether we have Social Security and Medicare so that our seniors can feel confident that they will be secure in their retirement. And so I am running for all of those reasons as well, and I want to be a voice for the people in this district to take to Congress and make sure that Congress works for us. Some people ask sometimes, well, what does a pediatrician bring to the table? And I think what I bring, is this unique lens. I mean, first of all, let's take on healthcare. This is where a woman pediatrician could have a lot to say. And I come to the table right now with a full plan, a healthcare plan on how to get affordable and accessible care for every person in this country so that cost does not become a barrier. That right now, our healthcare and our health status depends more on our zip code or our employer or just plain dumb luck than it does on anything else. And it just shows, like me, type 1 diabetes since her teens, she's in her 40s, I'm 50, but we've had a very different path because I have been very lucky with my employers, and she has not. And we are in very different places right now. Here I am talking with all of you and running for Congress, and she's in end-stage renal failure, and she's getting dialysis 3 times a week. And that is a travesty. So I'm running to make sure that our healthcare does not depend on our employer or our wealth. And to that end, I've proposed letting anybody buy into Medicare at any age on a sliding scale, so everybody can afford the care that they need. And for those who can't afford it at all, and for those who can't afford it, there will be subsidies. So everybody gets covered, and it's a way to grow Medicare, and it's essentially providing Medicare to everybody who wants it. That includes small business owners. It goes on to tackle drug costs, because I don't know about you, but I am feeling that on a monthly basis, and I'm sure you all are too. When employer health care and health insurance gives us these high deductible plans, it means that every time you go to the pharmacy, you are paying the retail cash price for medications. And so anybody in here who needs an EpiPen knows that they cost $600 for an EpiPack. And in Canada, they cost $50. And anybody in here on insulin, probably nobody, but mine has gone up 3 times in price, from about $80 a bottle to now $260 a bottle over the past 10 years. And that is something you can't choose to use or not use. It is not Viagra. If you can't afford it, yeah. Sorry, gentlemen. And so it takes on the cost of prescription drugs, and I am in no way casting the pharmaceutical industry as a whole as a problem. I'm just saying that if our prices are going up, we deserve to understand why. And there's a lot that we can do to get control over prices and make sure that we're not paying more in our country than they pay in Canada. Where else can a pediatrician offer just a little different lens? And I really think it's about how we think about kids and how we get every one of our children and grandchildren the best possible outcome in life. And I believe that starts way early. I think that starts with making sure that pregnancies are planned, that we have affordable or free contraception so that kids come into the world when parents are ready to give them the absolute best. And it involves supporting moms so that they have great prenatal care and the best birth outcomes. It means subsidized daycare for those who need it. It means that we need universal preschool, because right now, because if you're a child from a low socioeconomic home, you're already starting kindergarten 2 years behind. And you never really catch up. And so if we really want to level the playing field, if you want to do the best for every child, we got to start really early. Because ultimately, when you look at outcomes, again, data, evidence-driven, with all due respect to my physics teacher, who got me excited about physics and sent me off to college to study astrophysics, ultimately, the ones we should really be paying the best are those preschool teachers, because they're the ones, they're the ones who launch our kids to a really great start in school and get all of the behaviors and everything else so that they can succeed long term. So this is the lens that a pediatrician brings to this race. In order to get that, I got to beat Dino Rossi. Everything. This race, in my mind, could not be more important. Everybody has different numbers, but this is one of the top 10 races in the country. It is one of those 23 seats that we have to flip to get a Democratic majority in Congress and put a big fat check on this administration's policies and make sure there's transparency and fight for health care and what's best for the people in this district and the people in this country. And it is critical that we win. This is also a winnable race. You all showed up and voted, and if you looked at those numbers, Democrats altogether got 50% of the vote. Republicans altogether got 47%, and Mr. Dino Rossi, the best known Republican in the state of Washington, got 43%, and that ought to have him nervous. And I think he is nervous, because he's attacking. And I think that if they didn't think I was a threat, they would not be attacking in this way. So they know that this seat is up in the air. We know that this seat is somewhere between toss-up or crystal ball. Just recently upgraded us to leans Democrat for the first time ever here in the 8th District. Which means we have a chance to make history. We have a chance to put a Democrat in this seat for the first time ever and to do our part for the country to get a Democratic majority in Congress and have a more progressive agenda and put a check on this administration. So these are really exciting times. It's why I'm so excited that you're all here, and I'm so excited to have you help me do this, to talk to your friends, to talk to your neighbors, to get out the vote, to make sure that we touch every voter everywhere in this district. That means here, that means Leavenworth, Wenatchee. It means down into the deepest parts of Pierce County where I knock on doors and people say, nobody's ever come to talk with me before. This is the election to do it. This is the one so that nobody in this room looks back on November 7th and says, gosh, maybe I could have knocked on 2 more doors. Maybe I could have made a couple more phone calls. And so that's my big ask from all of you, is that this is the time to do it. And if you have extra energy, if you have another pair of tennis shoes, let's keep knocking on doors so we can reach every voter and get out the vote and flip this district and make our entire country proud. So thank you, and I will take your questions.
Dr. Schrier, thank you for coming. I'm back out because the candidate that I first backed, Jason Burrice, he didn't make it, and that's fine. I know very little about you, probably about as much as you know about me right now. But my question for you is something I'm very passionate about. Preliminary numbers for 2017 from the CDC are that we lost over 70,000 people to overdoses. I have personal experience with this. I have professional experience, and I'm an advocate for helping people find a pathway to recovery. My question for you is, what's your experience in this arena? What are you willing to do to help in this arena? This current administration stopped all the forward progress that we had over 8 years of the Obama administration. We have revamped the long failed drug war. It's back in full force. As a person in long-term recovery because of access to treatment, ongoing support from many community agencies, I stand here today alive and well and doing great. So that's my question for you is, what do you know about this whole substance use disorder arena? What are you willing to do to fight to bring treatment and recovery, not continue jail cells? That's my question.
Thank you. I could tell from almost your first word that this was a very personal issue. And you know what? You are, as you know, not the only one. And I hear about this everywhere in this district. When people ask me what I hear about most, the opioid epidemic is one of the top things I hear about, right up there with healthcare, prescription drugs, and housing costs. It is deeply frustrating that this administration pays lip service but takes no action, puts no funds behind a real plan. This is not a criminal justice issue. This is a healthcare issue. Here's my experience as a doctor. And I'm a pediatrician, so I'm one step removed from this, but I can tell you that during my training, the general motto was, don't be cheap with the anesthesia. Nobody should feel any pain, that's cruel. And before that, it had been the exact opposite. They didn't think that people felt pain or didn't believe people. Well, it turns out that between that kind of thinking, plus a pharmaceutical industry that was abusive and misled doctors to think that these drugs were not addictive, we ended up having this opioid epidemic. And the fact is that 4 out of 5 cases started in a doctor's office. And so the treatment that, the solution to this is multi-pronged. One is let's stem the tide from the doctor's office and make sure that we have responsible prescribing. I am in no way saying turn off the tap. That's not fair either. We can't let this pendulum swing all the way back the other way. People in pain need to have treatment, but we also need more pain medicine specialists so we can use other ways of treating pain when that's feasible. But prescribing in reasonable amounts, keeping track, having databases, knowing when pharmacies filled that prescription last, knowing who went into an emergency room for an overdose so that the doctor can find this out before they prescribe another bottle. So part of it starts there. Then the other part is that we need to invest resources. We need to make sure that insurance companies, Medicare, Medicaid, put resources towards treating opiate addiction just like any other chronic disease, because that is what this is. It started in a doctor's office. It is a chronic disease. This does not get fixed in a jail cell over a weekend. It doesn't get fixed in a month of rehab. This could take years. This could be a lifetime of needing medication-assisted treatment. So we need all of that. We need the Suboxone. We need providers who are expert in addiction medicine treatment. And we also need to have an expectation that this is a chronic disease, not a one-and-done thing. That means we need counseling and rehabilitation, get people back into the workforce and all the services that you have. So I'm thrilled that you are on your path. I know it's a really hard path, and I will make sure that the funds and the resources go to making sure that you have that support as long as you need it.
Schrier, thanks for being here. So as someone who raised a bunch of money for Jason, Jason couldn't be here today, but he's a big supporter of the effort to beat Rossi and you. I think a lot of folks in the room, whether they supported you or the other candidates, that would like to understand the plan on this side of the mountains. We see a lot of Dino, we see him at events, we see his signs, we see a lot of support. How can we help, and what's your plan to win on over here in 509?
So my plan to win here is the same as everywhere else. And by the way, I just yesterday spoke with Jason, and he was as gracious as could be. He wants to support me. He's going to be here in Ellensburg with me, speaking to groups and making sure that I connect just as well as he did, because this is his hometown. And I know that probably most of the people in this room supported Jason, and he has been the epitome of gracious and supportive, and we are a joint Democratic Party in wanting to flip the seat. We have a common goal, and I'm thrilled. So when we flip the seat, your answer to how I will be out here. I am here just like I'm everywhere else in the district, knocking on doors, leaving notes when somebody's not home. I have a team of volunteers that is here, in addition to me, just like we're doing everywhere else in the district, where some of the doorbelling is me, some of the doorbelling is my volunteers. And that's where I would love to count on all of you, because the most effective way of reaching voters is you talking to your neighbors, you making sure they voted. You're sending out a text to your closest friends saying, hey, vote ballots are due on Tuesday. Have you turned yours in yet? And that's how I would love to be able to count on all of you to make sure that every ballot of everybody who cares gets turned in. So yes, plan on seeing me probably at your doorstep.
Do you need money or?
This is a meet and greet. That said, here's how finances help. Finances help because what you're seeing on TV now is this war between what we call independent expenditures on both sides. It's all the nasty stuff that they just keep throwing at each other back and forth. What helps me is fundraising for my campaign, because that money gets used to put my own voice up on TV, in people's mailboxes, in Facebook ads and whatnot, and it's me cutting through all that noise to say, here's who I am, here's what I stand for. And so, yes, if I would welcome financial contributions. It helps me get my own message out there, so people have somebody to vote for and not just against.
And then, Kim, real quick, sorry, one thing we're gonna add about that, we're also hiring an additional East Side organizer, so if anyone knows of anyone who's looking for a job, or looking for on the campaign, grab me, I can give them my contact information. We're also passing around a clipboard, because we have a canvas happening this next Saturday, so you can put your information down, I'll contact with our organizer, Caitlin, who's your
Can we give you money tonight? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Can I ask for clarification? When you say give money to you, would that be through ActBlue? We can give it directly to your campaign?
Yes. To the campaign, okay. It can be through ActBlue, it can be through NGP, it can be a check.
Okay.
And it should not be put in my hands because
Right.
I'll lose it.
Right,
it should
right,
go to Katie or
but
Callie.
directly to your campaign?
Directly to the campaign.
Okay.
And then we use it best just for the campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Okay, just to fill in the blanks, there was a canvass of 6 precincts up in the upper county this afternoon and in Wenatchee. And the place, Callie, they have a nice, wonderful website with a calendar of upcoming events. And I just want to make sure everyone understands. You can go onto the website, you can put your name in there, you can volunteer, and Callie will make sure.
And you'll get one of these awesome t-shirts. Look at that. That proves you're working for the campaign. Well done.
But go to the website, sign up, and knocking on the doors is really one of the most important things we can do.
And you know, it's also one of the most fun.
Most of the people were really nice. There was one man who said, you said something nasty about his friend.
I don't know that that can happen.
But everyone seems to be very happy to have you over here.
But I would say, yes.
I would like to also encourage people to do monthly contributions. My husband and I have been monthly contributors to you continually, and that's something where you're not just giving and then forget about it, but get that in there monthly to Kim.
Yes. 2 months left.
We also are giving directly to the candidates and not to the
Party anymore.
party anymore. What the party did for us before was not really democratic. So we're supporting individuals here, not.
I am very grateful for your support. Yes.
I'm relaying a question from a local group called Our Environment. The person couldn't be here tonight, and she asked me to ask you if you have, if to your knowledge, received funds
No, thank you for asking that question because
Could
you
you
reminded me
repeat
to talk
that,
about.
Kevin, could you repeat
Yes,
that?
a friend of hers wanted to know if I had taken any funds from the fossil fuel industry, which brings up a fantastic point. I am taking no corporate PAC money. No fossil fuel. The reason I think this is so important is that I'm running to be a representative for the people in this district. And that gets very clouded. My opponent is taking money from big pharma, from insurance companies, from fossil fuels, and it is really important. And the NRA, I don't know if this time he's gotten money from the NRA, but in past races, there were independent expenditures. And, you know, that clouds your judgment, I think, and it makes it unclear what your real motivations are. My interests are the same as your interests, and when you support me, know that I will be a voice for you and not for a fossil fuel industry. I believe that we should be taking this head on. Science matters. It's time to stop subsidizing the fossil fuel industry and instead put that money in clean energy. I mean, think about the economy right here in Kittitas County and what that could do for appropriately placed wind, solar, manufacturing. This is a win-win situation here, especially as our climate gets drier and less predictable, and we have wildfires.
Kim, I have a question, which is a major health issue in this country. I'm a dual citizen. I'm 20-some years in Canada, so I understand the healthcare differences.
Yes.
But my emphasis is homicide and guns. And I want to know what you're going to do about issues of gun violence.
Right. Do you have is there a personal connection there?
Both personal and professional. I'm a professor here. I've done homicide research comparing the two countries and other countries.
Yes.
But, you know, it doesn't take a PhD and a JD to understand one of the major problems
Too many gun deaths.
is guns.
Yes.
So what is your stand with regard to gun regulation, etc.?
Sure. Well, I share your concerns on a multitude of levels, and I approach this again, here's the lens of the mom pediatrician. So as a mom, I send my child to our local public school every day, and there's no reason any parent should ever have to worry about safety at school. Now, I also recognize that while the media focuses on that, the vast majority of gun deaths in this country are suicides. So before we even get to homicides, let's talk about suicide, because I take care of teenage patients, and that is a very real threat to my patients. There's a lot of depressed teenagers out there, more than any of you would like to believe. And the combination of a depressed teen boy, specifically, and a gun that is not locked up and secured safely, that is just a recipe for disaster. And so what I would like, and I believe that Democrats, Republicans, gun owners, non-gun owners should be able to come to the table together and say, okay, what are we going to do to keep our kids safe? And I do not believe it's too much to ask that guns be locked up, stored safely, out of the hands of children. Accidents with guns, the average age is 3 years old, yes, and gun deaths are the third leading cause of death in children. And so I am mindful of all of those things. I just want guns owned safely. And I think we can all get behind that as long as the NRA is out of our politics.
So, in our canvassing and conversations with our neighbors, there was, I think within a week of your taking the primary, there was a letter in our paper from our representative, the state representative, relaying a conversation that you had with her, apparently, about the dams on the Columbia, and it would be helpful to understand both your context and your position, because we have an ag base that's important, and the ag base I think is willing to entertain a conversation, but we need to understand where you are with those kinds of things.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. My recollection of that conversation, because I actually brought it up, it had to do with the Kathy McMorris Rogers bill. The one that proposed prohibiting any decrease in flows at the lower Snake River Dam, I believe, even if it jeopardized salmon populations. And that was a break from all precedent, where there was a balance struck between wildlife and preserving our salmon habitat and energy production. And so I know that there's a task force at work on this right now that takes in all interests, energy, Native Americans, environment, salmon habitat, orcas, and is looking at all of this to see what the best combination is. I have not taken a position on that, which is why the letter was so interesting, because I'm really waiting to see what the best answer is. I would like the data-driven best answer from this coalition of experts that's looking at how we keep our clean energy and how we preserve our salmon habitat.
The third piece there is ag. You have got, and it
Yes.
was not recognized in her, it was not actually just recognized in your response, and it was not recognized in the response to the letter that showed at the Daily Record. We irrigate here. This is a desert. If the dams go away, the Columbia Basin, again, it's not your district, but it's growing what it grows because we can irrigate because of the dams. And there's an incredible infrastructure that has been put in place going back, well, to Roosevelt. And
Yes.
So I think as you're forming your opinion, recognize that it's not just clean energy and it's not just salmon habitat. It is absolutely our economic drivers.
Yes.
And if we're not able to appeal to the orchardists in Wenatchee or the hay growers here, it's an issue. And we need, I need, as I'm talking to people that are in the party of the radical center, to have that kind of knowledge and information.
Okay, thank you. And that includes the Yakima Basin Plan, it includes all this whole discussion. Absolutely. Agriculture is critical, as you all know, you live here, to the economy in the eastern part of the district, but also in the entire 8th district. And so, yes, our hay farmers, our apple farmers, pear, cherry, getting hit in a lot of ways. Tariffs, immigration, and water rights. And so, yes, that will take
And
partnership.
did you respond to her letter?
No.
Warren's letter? Are you going to?
I don't think so. But I don't know.
Let's talk about it.
Okay. We can talk about it.
And I'd like to have, and you probably have to write it down because
Speak
I'm
up,
old.
please.
I'd like to have that written down somewhere where somebody says that to me, I can say, oh no, this is what she said.
Yeah,
This
so
is
the
the
bottom,
real
yeah, the
answer.
bottom line is that, I am waiting for the expert opinion before I come down on
And the
any
answer
side
that
of
was
it.
given to Judy Warnick was misconstrued by Judy, misunderstood.
I can't say how somebody else understood it. The conversation that I initiated was about the Kathy moratorium bill.
Okay.
Let's take
We got
one
it.
more question. I think I saw a people question.
I'm curious about this whole FCC net neutrality, and then this whole texting thing. We're supposed to get a text from the White House this week. This seems like an overreach. I just want to know what you might have a thought on that.
I am very supportive of net neutrality. I think that our democracy really depends on it. And then once you start having fees for accessing information, it biases. And we absolutely need a neutral internet.
Can I ask one more question?
We'll wrap up and then you can chat with folks
Okay.
in smaller groups and make
That
sure you have a
sounds
chance
great.
to answer everyone's questions.
Perfect. I will be circulating. Thank you all for being here. I am so Thank you.
He might not be there.
Dave Nurple.
Oh, hi, yes.
I just want to say hi.
Nice to meet you, I'm Katie.
Things are really on track for the thing on the 5th of October.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
we're going to have a planning meeting Thursday.
That's and there's like, everything's getting into place this week.
Yeah. So I think, just want to let you know that we got it figured out, I think.
Thank you. We're really excited about it, and thank you for the enthusiasm and all that.
He was on the school board and she didn't answer.
Okay, perfect.
You're being sort of patient.
I get it.
You're like,
I get it. It's a very important question. I feel like everyone would have liked to know it, but
oh man, can I hear what the question is?
it was just a question about the Trump administration. Just her opinion, because if they do flip the House, it's going to matter. So.
Yeah.
I think you better get your question in now if you can.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah. I'd get right up there.
Can I grab you really quickly? And then I'll come right back.
You know, it takes a village. It really does, and I'm so glad that I'm so glad.
And you can't make memories unless there's so much. It takes a lot of quantity to get any quality. So cities are being good to see you too.
It was gorgeous today. I did that little loop of broken immigration.
We didn't go past the WA-08. We stopped and went up the hill. We parked down by the fire station and went up and around the shop.
That babies don't belong in cages. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah, there
That's funny that
Sign me up for anything, just do it about no babies.
Kim, I just had a quick question for you.
Katie's pulling me in this direction.
Thank you.